Welcome to Dark Night Stories. The hour is late, and outside, the unrelenting storm has drowned out all the noises of the living world. Tonight, we invite you to close your eyes, take a deep breath, and let the roar of the rain guide you into the shadows. Be warned. We are entering the territory of a genuine true scary story, a long narration designed to both relax and disturb. We are beginning the journey down the endless road. Chapter 1. The Midnight Rider. The dashboard clock glowed a sickly green. 2:48 a.m. Outside, the world was nothing but a heavy, echoing blackness, sliced through only by the blinding tunnel of the headlights. Highway 17, along the desolate Oregon coast, was a black, twisting ribbon slick with torrential rain. Elias, a long-haul trucker, was deep into the 9th hour of a brutal 12-hour shift, hauling a load of empty containers north. Every mile was identical. The hypnotic glow of the lights, the rhythmic, loud thwack-thwack of the truck's massive wipers struggling against the deluge, and the endless, drowning roar of the storm that seemed to consume all other sound. Elias felt the road trying to hypnotize him, trying to pull him under the heavy blanket of sleep. He had promised himself no stops, not after the sign he passed nearly an hour ago, a rusted, barely visible metal marker that read, "No services next 90 miles. This entire stretch was notorious. It was swallowed by dense, ancient pine forest on one side and the cold, swirling Pacific mist on the other, a place where the road felt less like pavement and more like an endless, waterlogged void. Just as the silence of the truck cabin, broken only by the storm, started to feel too heavy, too unsettling, Elias saw it. A figure stood on the narrow shoulder of the road, directly under the relentless downpour, a hitchhiker. Elias instinctively eased his foot off the accelerator. He was wearing an oversized, threadbare hooded jacket, soaked and clinging to his frame, yet somehow offering no real protection. But it was his posture that was unnerving. He wasn't thumbing a ride. He wasn't waving frantically. He was simply waiting with a profound, terrifying patience. He held a small, antique leather suitcase that looked too fragile for the weather and too heavy for its size. Against all rules, against all better judgment, Elias found himself slowing the massive 18-wheeler. The hitchhiker didn't look up until Elias stopped completely, the truck's air brakes hissing loudly into the night. The man opened the heavy passenger door and leaned in, the shadows of his hood swallowing his face. But his voice, a low, melodic whisper, unnervingly calm and dry against the deafening fury of the storm, reached Elias. "Thank you, friend. I'm going to Oak Haven. It's just up the road." Elias frowned, pulling the gear shift into neutral. He knew this highway like the back of his hand. There was no town named Oak Haven within 100 miles of this stretch. "Pal, I don't know any Oak Haven around here," Elias said, his voice loud against the sudden quiet of the cabin. "This road goes straight to Astoria. You must be mistaken." The hitchhiker tilted his head. The movement was slow, almost unnaturally deliberate, like an old clock winding down. "It is on this road, Elias. Just past the mile marker. But you must not look for it. You must simply drive, and I will tell you when we arrive." Against the rising panic in his chest, Elias made the fateful decision. He nodded. The man, without another word, climbed into the passenger seat. As the door slammed shut, Elias noticed the impossible. Despite standing in a torrential downpour, the man's clothing was not even damp. The seat remained dry, and the air immediately grew heavy, carrying a strange, almost metallic scent like old copper and sea salt mixed with the faint, dry odor of a very old book. The rhythmic thwack-thwack of the wipers seemed to fall subtly out of sync with the clock. Elias pulled back onto the deserted highway. The hitchhiker sat perfectly still, the small leather suitcase resting gently on his lap. He hadn't introduced himself. "What's your name?" Elias asked, trying to sound normal. "You may call me the rider," the man replied. "And you are Elias. I knew you would stop." A powerful, icy surge of genuine fear hit Elias. He gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. "How did you know my name?" the rider chuckled, a dry, unsettling sound that did not reach his eyes, which were still obscured by the deep shadow of his hood. "The road knows its travelers, Elias. It knows who stays, and who moves on. We are both moving on." For now, Elias focused intensely on the black road ahead. The visibility was terrible. He noticed something truly disturbing. He had passed the same twisted, distinctive pine tree. A monstrous, lightning-scarred sentinel on the left side of the road 3 times now. He dismissed it quickly as fatigue, or the dizzying effect of the rain. Then, he saw the sign again. No services next 90 miles. He slammed on the brakes, the massive truck shuddering violently as the air brakes screamed. What the hell is going on? We've been driving for 20 minutes at 50 miles an hour. We should be miles past this sign. The rider remained calm, not shifting an inch. We are exactly where we need to be. Elias, look. The rider pointed towards the side of the road. There, half hidden by mud and overgrown weeds, was a rusted, barely visible mile marker. The number on the marker was 90. The road is long, Elias. The rider whispered, his voice gaining a chilling resonance. It does not count distance. It counts time. Elias started the truck again, his foot trembling uncontrollably on the accelerator. The endless road lay ahead, black and consuming. He knew now that the only way to leave this highway was to find a town that did not exist. For a passenger who knew his name before he even stopped. And the rain was just beginning its long, dark chorus, sealing their fate to the road. Chapter 2. The Loop and the Ledger. The sheer terror of the mile marker 90 sign sent a shiver down Elias's spine that had nothing to do with the cold. He had been driving for nearly half an hour, yet he was exactly where he started. His foot trembled on the accelerator, and he glanced sideways at the rider. The rider was an unnerving statue. He hadn't fastened his seatbelt. He hadn't moved. The antique leather suitcase remained precisely balanced on his lap. What did you mean? The road counts time. Elias's voice was hoarse, almost lost beneath the sound of the rain lashing the windscreen. The rider turned his head slowly, and this time, the shadow shifted enough for Elias to catch a glimpse of his eyes. They were unnaturally pale, almost white, with dark, intense pupils that seemed to absorb the headlight's beam. The road is angry, Elias. It was built over something restless. It rejects distance. It rejects progress. It only accepts the passage of time and the company of those who seek an impossible destination. The rider said, his voice a low, hypnotic whisper. You accepted the ride. Now, until we reach Oak Haven. The highway is your cage. Elias drove for another 10 minutes, his anxiety mounting. He passed the distinctive, lightning-scarred pine tree again. And then, terrifyingly, he passed the no services next 90 miles sign for the 3rd time. He slammed on the brakes so hard, the truck skidded slightly on the wet asphalt. No, no, no. This is impossible, Elias yelled, turning to face his passenger. We're going backwards. We're stuck in a loop. The rider gently placed his hand on the dashboard. The touch was cold, startling Elias. Not backwards, Elias. Repetitive. The road keeps the time between the 90-mile marker and the ghost of the 91st mile. It asks its travelers to perform the journey over and over until they are ready. Ready for what? The rider slowly lifted the leather suitcase from his lap and placed it between them. It was surprisingly heavy, the leather dry and worn. The road has taken many travelers who were searching for Oak Haven. They are still here, Elias. They are scattered along these 90 miles. They have left their belongings, their messages, their despair. They are waiting for someone to deliver the final pieces of their story. He pointed to a small, brass latch on the suitcase. This is not my bag, Elias. It belongs to the road. Open it. Hesitantly, Elias popped the latch. The bag opened to reveal not clothes, but a collection of objects wrapped in ancient, brittle newspaper. The first thing Elias pulled out was a small, water-damaged captain's logbook. Its pages were filled with faded, frantic scribbles about thick, unnatural fog and a missing fishing vessel. The last entry was dated 90 years ago. We were sailing past mile marker 90, but there was no ocean, only road. The fog is closing in, and I hear whispering. The second object was a rusted child's music box. Elias wound it up, and a faint, tinny melody played, but the melody was cut short by a sound that made Elias freeze. A high-pitched, child's scream. The sound was instantly swallowed by the roar of the rain. These are the belongings of those who tried to leave the loop, the rider explained, his whisper now sounding like a threat. To break the cycle, you must find a way to deliver these items to their rightful owners on this road. Only then will the loop unlock and show you Oak Haven. Elias looked ahead into the black rain. The thought of driving forward, knowing he was just repeating the same terrifying 90 miles, searching for ghosts and handing out cursed possessions, filled him with dread. But the alternative, stopping, meant becoming another possession in the rider's collection. He started the engine. "Who are you?" Really? The rider lifted his hood slightly, and for the first time, Elias saw his face fully. It was not a man's face. It was the face of a porcelain doll, smooth and perfect, but cracked vertically down the center from the forehead to the chin. "I am the one who accepted the ride 90 years ago, Elias." The rider whispered, his cracked face unmoving. "I am the rider, and I am your only guide." The wipers thwacked out of time, and Elias began the loop again, driving past the twisted pine tree and the silent, terrifying mile marker 90. He knew his terrifying journey had just begun.